This week on The Gadget Show.
John invites some friends around to trash his toilet and throw up in his garden. Yes, he's having a house party, all in the interests of testing mini hi-fi systems.
In our latest Tested to Destruction, Susie and I get unreasonably violent with MP3 players. And finally, my mind writer is ready to show to the world. I've built a machine that allows me to write using just the power of thought.
Welcome to The Gadget Show. And this week, there's quite a lot of stuff on the show about the sorts of stuff that let you listen to music and stuff.
Quite a lot of stuff there, Suze, but you know, I like that.
Were you with me on it, then?
I understood every word.
OK.
Yeah.
Jason and I are going to be doing some serious damage to MP3 players.
All in the interest of science, of course.
Of course. And John is going to be looking at hi-fis. In fact, we're going to kick off the show with John's hi-fis, aren't we, Mr. Bentley?
Yes, indeed. And what a business buying a hi-fi can be. A matter of carefully assembling a system of separate components, often from different manufacturers. Does it have to be that difficult? Well, unfortunately, if you're actually after the best sound that money can buy, it probably does. Take this magnificent Lin Magic system.
Just beautiful, isn't it?
At least it's all from one manufacturer, but with a separate preamplifier, amplifier and CD player, it's hardly compact. And at £6,500, it definitely isn't cheap. But can you get great hi-fi without a cumbersome and expensive system of separates? To find out, I've tested 3 systems which just comprise one box and a compact set of speakers. I want to find out how these hi-fis measure up in a real-life situation. So I won't be testing them in a special sound lab, measuring frequency response or decibels or anything like that. Instead, I'll be testing them in a real house, where imperfectly shaped rooms and acoustically difficult furnishings and clutter, not to mention the background noises of the typical home, all conspire against the perfect sound. But I've invited some of the youths from the Gadget Show office round for a house party, to put the systems through their paces in exactly the kind of environment where they'll be expected to perform. Ooh, that'll be them.
This is like Dave's house, yeah? Pete's mate, right?
I've put my hi-fis in 3 different rooms of the house, but I'll test the same track on each one. I'll start with the sleek and well-crafted Arcam Solo. Now, Arcam builds some really high-quality separates, and I hope they managed to cram all that quality into the Solo. It's not a cheap system. In fact, it's the most expensive of the 3. It has a CD player and a DAB and FM radio, playing through an amplifier that's rated at a relatively modest-sounding 50 watts per channel. But that hefty heatsink on the back suggests there's a lot of power being generated in here, whatever the figures. And there are lots of handy connections, including this 3.5mm jack for your portable audio player and an optional dedicated iPod interface. There's also an alarm clock. The first good thing about it is it's plenty loud enough. You can turn the level up really high before you get any distortion, and it sounds convincingly hi-fi. But the best thing about it is that the sound's really big. It builds up this great soundscape that you can place where individual instruments and vocals are very accurately. It's what our sound man Ben would call an excellent stereo image.
Oh, Dave.
My next system is only 1/5 of the price. I've set it up here in the kitchen. This Sony is the cheapest of our systems. It has just 25 watts per channel and no DAB radio, but it does boast lots of connectivity options. It's the world's first micro system with Bluetooth, meaning you can play tracks from your phone wirelessly through your hi-fi, and hands-free so you can dance. Can you pass me that, please? See, you can play tracks directly. And it sounds pretty good. And you can play them from anything that incorporates the latest Bluetooth stereo streaming standard. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's great.
No. There's also a USB socket, so you can plug in a whole variety of devices, from MP3 players to card readers, and go through the folders where you've stored your music. The track names come up and everything. I must say it's all rather plasticky and gimmicky with the blue flashing lights, but I do like the way the numbers on the volume control go round like a milometer. And finally, the important bit. What does it sound like? Well, surprisingly pleasant, actually. It's very easy to listen to. But I don't think it's really hi-fi. There's nothing like the stereo image of the Arcam, and it's nowhere near as loud.
Oi, Dave, get on it up, mate.
So, what about something in between the Sony and the Arcam? Next, a system from one of the most respected names in compact hi-fi, Denon, and I've set it up in the bedroom. Previous Denon systems were quite traditional and boxy, but this new S81 is really rather stylish, with its rounded off corners and, best of all, sorry, these pod-like speakers. It has a 50-watt per channel amp, a CD player, DAB and all the trimmings, including a specific iPod dock. Denon say the S81 has had its sound tuned to fit UK tastes, while the Japanese hanker after crisp, bright sounds. We Brits like our music with more depth, apparently. Though I think they might have actually rather overdone this UK sound tuning. It sounds almost too warm, possibly even a bit muffled. It's not that it's bad, it's actually very agreeable to listen to. It's just not quite as good as I think some old Denons were, which is slightly disappointing. There is one good feature, though. Once you've plugged your iPod into the socket, you can control it using this rather handsome remote, which actually mimics the iPod interface, which I think is very good. You'd appreciate it, I think.
All right, Dave, don't tell John, but I've bagged his toilet, mate.
I've got a question.
Yes?
Why weren't we invited to that party?
I was invited. I was under the sheets, that couple, when no one knew.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Ratings then, John?
In spite of the fact it's very expensive, I think this is really amazingly good for something that size, and I'm going to give the Arcam 5G.
Wow!
One of our rare 5G ratings.
Right.
The Denon, 3Gs, because other Denons sound better. I think if you're really after sound quality for less money, actually, you'd probably be better off with a different Denon than that. Sony, also 3Gs, doesn't sound as good, but it's a lot cheaper, and also just it's fun to play with.
Let me show you something truly wonderful. You've probably never heard of this, but trust me, it's hardcore. This is the Monolith MX7000, and it's probably the toughest little MP3 player on the face of the earth. Just check out these images of Monolith abuse while I tell you a little bit about it. Packed into the Monolith's tough little case is 2 gigs of storage, an FM radio and an FM recorder, a direct line in for recording from CDs without a computer, a dictaphone and an alarm clock. As you can see, it's tough, and it's all down to a manufacturing process in which all the components within the MP3 player are fused into a solid 1.5mm aluminium casing, a process called X-Protect. We took this Vauxhall Astra weighing 1.2 tons and drove it over the Monolith. Each wheel presses down with a weight of 303 kilograms. That's the same as being trampled on by a very large brown bear who's just eaten 2 hikers. OK, so it seems that the claims that the Monolith is virtually indestructible are well-founded. There's only one problem with this glorious little MP3 player. Nobody makes it anymore. A mere 6 months after the Monolith was launched, the manufacturers went bust. It took market forces to destroy the indestructible. If you look on the internet and make a lot of phone calls, you may well find a specialist MP3 seller with a couple of Monoliths in a drawer. Ask them nicely and they might well sell one to you. That's how we got ours. But apart from that, the cause of the truly rugged MP3 player seems to be lost. OK, I want to appeal to the gadget manufacturers of the world. Look, this is what you should be building. This is what I want, a rugged MP3 player. Currently, there is nothing available that can possibly live up to the legend that is the Monolith.
Jace,
Yes.
you're wrong.
OK.
All you need, if you want a truly rugged MP3 player,
Yeah.
is one of these, an iPod.
Can I just apologise, viewers, for my co-presenter Susan Perry, who's obviously labouring under the misapprehension that this admittedly beautiful piece of design is in any way tough and rugged. Let me demonstrate. Can I borrow this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice, isn't it? Do you mind if I just demonstrate my point? Yeah.
Please, yeah.
Because that's really nice, isn't it? I love the chrome. And you've kept it quite shiny, actually, but it's a shame I'm going to have to do that, isn't it? Thanks, Suze. That's not what I call rugged.
Yeah, I got that out your bag this morning. It's yours. No, Jace is right. iPods aren't tough on their own. They need a little bit of help. But when you know that 3 out of every 4 MP3 players that are sold are iPods, and by the way, that's more than 60 million since they were launched back in 2001, it won't surprise you to know that a whole industry has grown up around protecting them. There are scores of cases, covers, shields, pouches, wallets, armour bags and boxes, all claiming to help protect your iPod from the trials and tribulations of everyday life. But which is best? Well, last week I set about a bit of testing to find out.
Firstly, I put iPods in all 17 of our test cases, then stuck them in a washing machine on a spin cycle. Any that couldn't protect their precious MP3 cargo were discarded. We then joined our modestly dressed model in the shower for a bit of waterproof testing. A fair few fell at that hurdle, and the remaining cases were left in the capable hands of the Gadget Show's favourite chef, Christophe. An iPod has a maximum operating temperature of 35 degrees, supposedly, so the cases will have their work cut out protecting them in our apple pie. Apple, iPod, do you get it? Yeah, whatever. At extreme heat, it's just a matter of time before the solder holding the components together inside melts, making any iPod useless. The more insulation the cases provide, though, the more likely they are to get through this test. Anyway, into the oven they go for 20 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. As he served up, it appeared Christophe had overcooked his apple pie. We thought all the cases had failed, leaving us with a whole array of very hot, very dead iPods. But after a few seconds, the screen cleared on a couple of iPods to reveal working, playing MP3 players.
So after that, I was left with what I think are the best two, the OtterBox and this Peli i1010. The Peli case claims to be waterproof, dustproof and crushproof, and is the baby brother of cases used by camera crews and the military to transport expensive kit. It also comes with a lifetime guarantee. The main problem with it is that when your iPod's inside it, you can't get to the controls. The OtterBox is apparently waterproof, dustproof, dirtproof, sandproof and dropproof. The click wheel is protected by a thin membrane, so you can control it through the case while it remains protected, a distinct advantage over the Peli case. The question still remains, which is best? So, as a final decider, to see whether one of these boxes can make your iPod as tough as Jason's beloved monolith, I decided to take a leaf out of his book and run them over. I drove over them once, and they both kept working. So, I drove over them again, and they both kept working. In fact, it took about 20 consecutive hit and runs before either of them sustained any damage at all. And here is that damage. The time spent in the cooker has warped the hinge here, eventually making this tiny bit of plastic just crack off. And I can highly recommend this Peli case, but it's the OtterBox that came out top in my testing.
Yes, Sue, say you've got yourself a jumped-up little suitcase for your iPod, but it will never match up to the legend that is the monolith, hewn out of molten lava, OK, in the fiery forges of hell by demons. OK? It doesn't matter what little plastic raincoat you've got, Suze. You're never going to beat the mighty warrior of MP3.
Have you finished?
Yes.
Good. Obviously, this is an argument that Jason and I had to resolve. And so, we found ourselves in the latest Tested to Destruction challenge. Which of these two could survive the most abuse, cruelty and violence? My iPod in its little OtterBox raincoat.
Or the colossus that is the monolith. You've got to stick around and watch this. I think it's fair to say this is, without a doubt, the most extreme, OK? The most sadistic Tested to Destruction that we've ever done, so don't miss it. Anyway, next up, the critical list.
Every week on the critical list, we take a look at what's latest and what's best. Hello, in a particular area of gadgetry. This week, toys. Yay. John, you go first. That looks beautiful.
It's, yes, one of the most graceful electronic toys I've ever seen. It's the latest thing from WowWee Robotics, the people who bought us Robo Sapien, and it is the Flytech Dragonfly. Sitting inside the controller here, a few AA batteries. It sits on the top. It's made out of very nicely sculpted polystyrene with these illuminated eyes, and it recharges on there, and this controls the speed, this controls the direction with additional trim steering there at the back. It takes a bit of an art to control it.
Fantastic!
There's a bit of technique to flying it. I'm not sure I've actually got it, but it seems to be you sort of ease on and off on the on the throttle and a bit of a left and right, and it just sort of keeps it in the air long enough until it hits the wall.
Oh, right. Well flown.
Yeah, very good. In a small space as well.
Very good.
Imagine that outside. It's really cool.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome.
Right, can I go next?
Yes.
Please do.
But I need a little bit of darkness for mine. Right, are you ready?
Yep.
Laser tripwire.
No.
Yay! Exciting. It uses battery-operated sensors, and then you've got a laser emitter and receiver. I should say at this point that it's not a real laser, obviously.
Was
it's
it LEDs?
LEDs, yeah. Totally harmless LEDs.
By aiming the narrow LED beam from one module onto the sensor of a second, the light creates an almost invisible tripwire, which sounds an alarm if the light beam is broken.
This set comes with 3, but you can put them all together and they feed off each other.
That's brilliant.
You could have like a whole matrix, like a bank.
Like a whole crisscross thing.
Yep, exactly that. You can have as many as you wanted. I'm going to ask John, my glamorous assistant, just to add some smoke here.
Using my handy smoke machine.
Yeah, because we can see the beam better.
Oh, yeah!
See, look at that, the actual smoke made the alarm go off. And now I want you to try and get over the beam.
No!
Yay! Woo!
I tell you what, Suze, that was really, really good, but you guys have got to see my toy. It's just fab, but it's outside. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Fine, yeah.
Come on, let's go.
What is it?
I'll show you when I get there. Stand
Give us
there.
some sort of clue. Which way have we got to go?
Outside.
To be it.
Right, what
There
does
we
it do?
go. It's called the Storm Launcher, and the idea is that it combines lots of the elements of normal remote control models that you'd use for single disciplines, like more boats, driving on the land and driving in the air, into one device.
It goes in the air.
Well, apparently so, although I've never actually tried it. Can I just point that out? We're going to try it now for the first time. Hey!
Oh, that's impressive. How did it?
Oh!
Coming for an landing.
Oh, that's so cool. Jason, how fast does it go?
About a scale speed of about 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
Which, when you consider it's just 2 little electric engines, is pretty impressive.
What's fantastic is when you turn it, it spins almost on a sixpence, doesn't it? It skids around.
Yeah, it does. It's a very interesting sort of control mechanism, although I would say it's a really nice introduction for youngsters to radio control.
Really good fun, loved it.
Now it's time for something a bit special. In front of me is what I consider to be the best gadget I've ever built for the Gadget Show. And it's based on what I think is the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed in 3 years on this programme. Something I saw at the CeBIT Technology Show in Germany. The mind-boggling Mind Writer. This has to be the ultimate interface, controlling a computer using nothing but your brain. Now, all the electrodes on his head, what they do is they pick up the EEG, or the electrical activity of the brain, and they translate that into letters. Apparently, the guy wearing the electronic swimming hat uses a sort of yes-no protocol by thinking about moving his right arm when he wants to get a positive response and his left arm for a negative response. In this way, he can, apparently, write whole sentences purely by the power of thought. I gave him a test to write out the Gadget Show by just using his power of thought, and amazingly, in just a few minutes, he did just that. It was a truly inspirational moment. Now that got me thinking about how I could build my own DIY Mind Writer right here in the Gadget Show workshop. To make my Mind Writer, I'm going to use something I built in the first series of the Gadget Show, my £1 lie detector. This detects stress levels by measuring the conductivity of electricity in the skin. If I'm able to control my stress levels, then I shall be able to control an electrical current with my thoughts. And here is the latest version of my lie detector, just a transistor and a resistor.
Now, by using an old mouse, I can connect the wires from my lie detector onto its circuit board, which will allow my thoughts to operate the mouse's left click button.
So that's the hardware component of my DIY MindWriter complete. And this is how it works. Power comes out of the mouse port and travels down the mouse cable, ending up in the circuit board inside my mouse. It then continues into my lie detector. Again, it travels up along what I'm calling the electrodes, these two cables, which I then place on my skin.
Then, if I can lower the resistance of my skin, more electricity will flow and trigger the switch in my lie detector.
When that happens, a signal is sent and the left button is switched. Now, the big question is, how do I lower the resistance in my skin? Well, it's quite simple. I just sweat.
Lie detectors work by using what's called the galvanic skin response. That's to say, the moisture your skin produces when your emotions are running high. In my case, I'll be trying to control this response by using just my mind.
The final stage of my DIY MindWriter project is the most exciting because it involves software. I had to ask a friend of mine who's a programmer to make me a little program which he's calling MindWriter. The idea is pretty straightforward. The program cycles through all the letters of the alphabet. What I've got to do, if I'm looking to, say, write the letter G, is wait for the letter G to come up and then think of something emotional so that I can get the little transistor in my lie detector to trigger the left mouse button and write the letter on the screen.
I will be absolutely amazed if you can make this work.
I've definitely had some success with this, but I've got a feeling it's one of those things that needs a bit of time. But, you know, nevertheless, we'll give it a go. I'll just tell you exactly what we're going to do here. I'm going to put the things I call the electrodes. They're not strictly electrodes, but we'll call it that. I'm going to put them on my skin, OK? And then I'm going to set the alphabet off, continue scrolling through all the letters. And when it gets to certain letters, I'm going to try and think of something really emotional that will cause the galvanic skin response that I've talked about, sweat basically, in my fingers, and hopefully that will lower the resistance, the signal will go through, and I'll click on the letter. I'm going to try and write Gadget.
You're going to try and write Gadget with your mind.
That's it, Suze. Should we give it a go?
Yes.
The large box on the screen shows the letters continually cycling round. If I activate the letter with my mind, it will appear in the small box on the right-hand side.
I've set the frequency for letters as they scroll through.
5 seconds, we're getting up.
Yeah, so I'm getting quite a long
Haven't you got to
time.
start to concentrate and get excited?
Well,
Because
I've
G's
got to
coming
time
out.
it. Hang on D, I better get ready for G. What should I think of, Suze?
Well, don't say. Think of something rude.
OK.
Ruder.
I concentrated really hard, but I peaked too early and got an F instead of a G.
Calm. Right.
Wait,
can we clear that one?
What did you think about?
I can't tell you that. It involved you and John, that's all I'm saying. Wow! That's not bad, is it? All right, I'm starting now.
I began to try and control my mind in order to select an A. Yet again, I was early, and instead of the A, I got 3 letters at the end of the alphabet.
Oh, no.
So my mind was writing the letters, but I needed to improve my timing.
Seriously, I need to calm down.
This time, I was going for the D.
You got it! Go for G.
Could I get the right letter again?
Yes!
I'd now got 2 correct. I really was writing with my mind, but I was still struggling with my timing and got an H instead of the E. I had just the T to go. Could I get this one right?
Yes!
That is amazing!
Look at what you've got. F,
Yep.
which is really close to G. You only
G
just
for
missed
Gadget,
that.
yeah.
And
W,
then-
which was when I was going for A.
Yeah.
So W, X, Y, Z. So what am I, 3 or 4 off?
Yeah.
And then
Then
there's a
you
bit
got
of
the
a-
D.
Yeah.
You got the G, just a little bit off for the E.
E, yeah.
And then you got the T.
Two.
But for something that doesn't cost more than, I would say, £1, that's incredible.
Time for a short break now, but after that, the culmination of our Tested to Destruction challenge, and Jason and I get a little too close to the action as we torture MP3 players.
Now it's time for us to return to our Tested to Destruction challenge.
Jason thinks that nothing can live up to the legend that is the monolith, but I think that if you've got an iPod and you put it into one of these rugged little otter boxes, it can be just as tough as the monolith.
We said to the Gadget Show office that they needed to settle this for us, and our producers came up with some seriously extreme tests. Am I right?
Absolutely correct.
All we were told to do was turn up at a breaker's yard somewhere in Kent a few days ago.
Ugh.
Ah.
Welcome to the second part of our challenge.
OK, we've seen the Otterbox and the Monolith protect themselves,
Yeah.
but how well can they protect you?
An MP3 player. On the ground, there is some safety equipment. I suggest you put it on because in 1 minute you'll be shot at by professionals.
1 minute? You must use your respective toughened MP3 player as a shield. Good luck.
I don't want to be shot.
Special Forces, look. These guys are professional paintball marshals. Their Piranha P6 guns can fire paintballs at up to 300 feet per second. That's the equivalent of 204 miles an hour. When they fire, the one place you don't want to be is 10 metres in front of them with just a tiny MP3 player for protection.
I can't stand it!
It is very scary. OK, we're ready! We're ready! Fire! Ow! 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 Jesus! It really, really hurts.
The Otterbox and the Monolith weren't the best shields we could have had. And although they did take the brunt of the shots, our arms and hands were taking a real pounding as well.
It all got too much for us in the end, and we decided retreat was the better part of valour.
Ow! Ow!
We'd been hit by nearly 100 paintballs and it hurt. Our MP3 players had taken hits as well. It was time to check if they were okay.
Oh, yes! Track 19 is playing loud and clear.
The iPod inside the Otterbox was fine, despite taking a hit directly on the jog wheel, the weakest part of the case.
Ow!
And despite taking numerous 200-mile-an-hour hits, the Monolith just wiped clean and was fine. Good as new.
After we cleaned up, we headed deeper into the scrapyard to find our next challenge.
Congratulations, you survived the first test.
Now it's time for a little pressure. That was pressure.
Mr. Williams here. Oh, it's Mr. Williams.
Hello, Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams will encase your players in quick-drying concrete while they are still playing.
Cool. When the concrete is dry, we'll use a pneumatic drill to break them out.
This is a test of vibration.
It's happened so many times to my MP3 players, hasn't it? I've encased them in concrete.
And if they can handle this, they can handle anything. Brilliant idea.
OK, let's
All
do
right.
it.
We're using a natural quick-drying concrete mix.
We had to wrap both the players in plastic bags with a little air around them, otherwise they'd have been sealed in so tight we'd never get them out.
After sealing them in, all that was left to do was wait.
What are we going to do?
Absolutely no idea.
Oh, I spy. Mr. Williams? I spy with my little eye. Something beginning with C.
Do you reckon, right, if aliens landed in this junkyard right now, they'd think all the cars were people?
How long we got left?
In the end, it was 4 hours before the concrete had hardened enough for us to break the players out.
Right, Mr. Williams, take it away.
This pneumatic drill strikes over 1,600 times per minute. That's 27 times a second. Each blow is like being hit by a tennis ball at 80 miles an hour. And that creates a lot of energy, which spreads into the players, potentially shaking components loose.
There's mine.
Let's have a look.
Look. Let me see if I can hear it. Oh! Come on.
Yay!
Yeah, definitely still going.
Not sure, though, about jogging with that on.
Yeah, no, you won't get very far. How are we going to know what to do next, then?
I haven't a clue.
Can you hear something?
It's like a hissing sound. Hey, hang on a minute! Hang on a minute. Open her up. Open her up. Thank you. All right, away. Go on.
Wow!
That's so cool.
OK, ready?
Yeah, got it.
The monolith and Otterbox have made it this far, but it ends here. This is our crash test.
OK, you'll tape your players inside the cars. They'll then be subjected to a severe 5-minute beating by this Atlas grab.
Whichever survives the full 5 minutes will be the winner. That's going to be mine.
No, it's not going to be yours. If both survive, then the player with the least damage will be the winner. Good luck.
Marvellous.
Sounds straightforward
Bring
enough.
it on.
I was up first, and as I taped my monolith to the dash, I hoped for the best.
Oh, your monolith's going to die!
The Atlas can lift up to 10,000 kilograms, and its jaws have a closing force of 36 kilonewtons. What that means in English is that every time it grabs, it's applying the same pressure you'd get if an overweight female African elephant stood one-footed on a teaspoon. The makers of the monolith claimed it was virtually indestructible, but I'm sure they never had this in mind.
Stop now. Yeah, all right. Made your point. Where is it?
There it is, there it is, there it is.
Oh, no, well spot. Oh, no!
it's crashed.
No!
Oh, what a shame.
It's absolutely trashed.
Oh.
Look at that!
But is it still working?
If that's working, I mean,
It's still working.
then there's some weird stuff going on because, I can't even hold the power button down.
Then it was my turn, and I taped the Otterbox to the dashboard with the Nano inside. I'd seen what the Atlas grab could do, so I wasn't holding out much hope.
Go on! Great! Good shot! Oh, that looks a bit... Oh!
The Atlas grab made short work of my little Metro, and by the looks of it, the Otterbox wouldn't be faring much better.
Come on! Oh! Yes! Oh, that was pleasurable.
Mine's getting longer.
At the end of it all, we had to try and find it.
Good tape job.
Apart from it's not in there. How much of a hammering did that take?
Oh, it was absolutely trashed. But I think by default, Suze...
Where is it, though?
If we're not even able to find yours, surely I'll win.
We were about to stop filming and pack up for the day when Jason made a miraculous find.
Here it is!
Standing near.
Here it is! I found it! I found
Where
it!
is it? Where? Let me see. Ooh.
It looks intact to me. No, don't. Show us then.
Look.
No!
It's still working.
And here it is, safe and sound. I mean, it's a little bit battered and it's a bit mucky inside, but it is still in perfect working order. Thank you very much.
You know, I still don't believe. Just bear with me that this, right, was in there for the entire bashing session. I reckon it flipped out in about the first 3 seconds. My bad boy was there. It was in the car.
Well, I knew you were going to say that, so I've had a word with the Gadget Show production team, and I asked them to go through the footage frame by frame to see exactly when this little baby fell out, which they did. And you're right, it didn't last the full 5 minutes, but it did take a severe pounding, and it took 3 direct hits. So you have got to accept that this is one tough little geezer.
I'm only winding you up, Suze. I actually talked to the boss and he showed me it on the edit. And you're right, it did stay the course.
You knew!
I knew, yeah. Well done. Congratulations.
Oh, that's...
Yay!